The year was 2147. Humanity had finally reached the stars. After centuries of dreams, experiments, and failures, Earth was no longer alone in the universe. Long-range probes had discovered signals from distant civilizations, and eventually humanity made contact. The galaxy was far bigger than humans ever imagined. Dozens of intelligent species lived among the stars. Many of them were part of a powerful alliance known as the Galactic Union. This alliance kept peace between different civilizations and controlled trade, travel, and technology across thousands of star systems. For humans, joining the Union was a historic moment. It meant protection, knowledge, and access to technology far beyond anything on Earth. But the Galactic Union had rules. Every new species had to follow them. And one of those rules was simple. Before joining the Union, a civilization had to declare every weapon it possessed. For most species, this was not a big problem. Many civilizations in the galaxy had developed slowly and peacefully. Some had never even fought a major war. Usually, a new member would send a short report. A few defense ships. Some planetary shields. Maybe a few experimental weapons. The Alien Council expected the same from humanity. They were wrong. The first sign that something unusual was happening appeared above Earth. One quiet morning, thousands of satellites detected strange signals near the edge of the solar system. At first, scientists thought it was a sensor error. Then telescopes confirmed the truth. A fleet had arrived. Huge alien ships slowly moved into orbit around Earth. They were massive, shining structures made from metal that no human engineer could recognize. The ships did not fire weapons. They did not threaten anyone. They simply waited. Within minutes, the entire planet knew something had changed. News channels around the world showed the same images. Enormous alien vessels floating silently above Earth. Governments immediately called emergency meetings. Inside the United Nations headquarters in New York, world leaders gathered in a secure room. Military officers, scientists, and diplomats sat around a large table, staring at the main screen. On the screen was the message sent by the alien fleet. It had already been translated by advanced communication systems. The message was short. Very short. Human civilization is being evaluated for membership in the Galactic Union. The room was silent. Then the message continued. Before acceptance, humanity must submit a complete declaration of all weapons currently possessed by your species. Many leaders looked confused. Some even looked relieved. It sounded like a simple request. But one man in the room did not smile. General Marcus Hale leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. He had spent his entire life studying warfare and defense systems. Unlike the politicians in the room, he immediately understood the real meaning of the message. "They want our weapon inventory," he said quietly. A diplomat nodded. "Yes. It appears to be a standard Union procedure." General Hale looked around the room. "Does anyone here realize how long that list is going to be?" No one answered. Most of the leaders believed the request was simple. After all, Earth had been mostly peaceful for decades. The major global wars were part of history now. But General Hale knew something the others were beginning to remember. Humans had been building weapons for centuries. Thousands of different weapons. Weapons for land battles. Weapons for the oceans. Weapons for the skies. Weapons designed for space warfare. Weapons designed to stop asteroids. Weapons designed for enemies that might not even exist yet. Humanity had never stopped preparing. Even during peace. High above Earth, inside the largest alien ship, an officer watched the planet carefully. The officer was not human. His skin was covered in dark scales, and his large eyes slowly scanned the data arriving from Earth. His species had studied hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy. Most of them were predictable. Young species were usually curious, hopeful, and unprepared for danger. He believed humans would be the same. The officer turned to his assistant. "Have the humans responded to the request?" The assistant checked the communication console. "Yes, Commander. A data file has arrived." The officer nodded calmly. "Good. Display the declaration." The assistant opened the file. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a long document appeared on the main screen. The assistant blinked. "That cannot be correct." The officer leaned forward. "What is the problem?" The assistant looked again at the data. "Commander, the document appears to be 47 pages long." The officer frowned. 47 pages? That is correct. The room became quiet. The officer had reviewed weapon declarations from many civilizations before. Most of them were only one page. Some were two. No species had ever submitted a declaration longer than 5 pages. But the human document continued scrolling. Page after page appeared on the screen. Each page listed new weapons, missile systems, orbital cannons, naval battle platforms, automated drone armies, planetary defense networks. The officer slowly stood up. Continue scrolling. The assistant obeyed. The list continued, and continued, and continued. By the time the screen reached the final page, the officer's calm expression had completely disappeared. The room was silent again. Finally, the assistant spoke. Commander, this is only the basic weapons list. The officer turned slowly. What do you mean? The assistant pointed to the bottom of the document. There was a short note written by the human representatives. Read. Additional classified defense systems can be discussed if required. For the first time since arriving in the solar system, the alien officer felt something unexpected. Concern. He looked back at the image of Earth on the large window. A small blue planet. Peaceful. Beautiful. And apparently far more dangerous than anyone in the Galactic Union had predicted. The officer spoke quietly. Send a message to the council. The assistant waited. What should the message say? The officer kept staring at Earth. Then he answered. Tell them the humans have responded to the weapon request. He paused for a moment, then added one more sentence. And inform them, this situation may be more complicated than expected. Far from Earth, deep in the center of the Galactic Union's territory, a massive station floated quietly in space. It was known as the Council Nexus, the place where leaders of many alien civilizations gathered to discuss important matters. The station was enormous. Thousands of ships moved around it every day. Inside, long halls and giant chambers connected different parts of the station like the inside of a living machine. At the heart of the Nexus was the council chamber. It was a circular room so large that its ceiling looked like a night sky. Lights above it shined like distant stars. In the center of the room was a large floating platform where the council leaders met. On this day, the chamber was unusually quiet. Representatives from 12 different alien species were present. Each one looked very different from the others. Some were tall and thin with long arms and glowing eyes. Others were covered in smooth shells. One species looked almost like a moving cloud of light. They had gathered for a simple reason: to review humanity's weapon declaration. For most council members, it was routine work. They expected to read a short report, approve it, and move on to more important matters. But the moment the human document appeared on the central display, the atmosphere changed. A long scroll of text slowly moved across the screen. Weapon systems, defense networks, military fleets, research projects. The scrolling did not stop. One council member leaned forward. Is the display malfunctioning? He asked. Another member checked the data. No. The document is complete and verified. The list kept moving. One of the oldest members of the council, a tall gray figure named Verex, spoke slowly. How many pages does this report contain? A small drone near the screen answered immediately. 47 pages. Several council members reacted at once. That cannot be correct. That is more than any developing civilization has ever reported. Are we certain this information is accurate? A moment later, a transmission arrived from the inspection fleet near Earth. The alien officer who had first read the report appeared on the chamber's large holographic screen. His expression was serious. Council members, I confirm that the human report is authentic. The chamber became silent again. Verex looked directly at the officer. Explain. The officer nodded. When our fleet requested a declaration of weapons, the humans responded immediately. They provided a full inventory of their military systems. Another council member interrupted. Surely these are minor defense tools. Small planetary systems, perhaps. The officer paused before answering. No. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the holographic report expanded across the air. Now the council could see the document clearly. Page 1 showed orbital missile platforms placed around Earth. Page 2 listed long-range planetary railguns. Page 3 described automated drone fleets capable of independent combat operations. The council members stared at the data. The officer continued. Page 7 describes deep ocean naval weapons. Page 10 lists high-altitude weapons platforms designed for atmospheric defense. Page 14 describes space-based combat fleets currently stationed within their solar system. One of the council members suddenly raised a hand. Stop. The display froze. The alien speaking was a blue-skinned representative from a peaceful civilization that had never fought a war. His voice sounded uneasy. Why would a young species possess so many types of weapons? No one answered. The officer continued calmly. The document becomes more complex after page 20. The scrolling resumed. Now the descriptions were even more alarming. Planetary shield systems. Asteroid redirection technology. Autonomous war satellites. Advanced electronic warfare tools capable of disabling enemy technology from long distances. The council members began speaking to each other quietly. This was not normal. Not at all. One council member whispered, "This level of preparation suggests constant warfare." Another replied, "But our records show that humanity has not fought a major planetary war for decades." The officer heard the discussion and spoke again. "That is correct." Verex leaned forward. "Then explain something to us, officer." "Yes, counselor. If humanity is currently at peace, why are they preparing for so many kinds of war?" The officer did not answer immediately. Instead he changed the display. Now the screen showed something different. A simple chart. It listed the number of known conflicts recorded in human history. The numbers were shocking. Thousands of wars. Small conflicts. Large conflicts. Global wars. Cold wars. Civil wars. Centuries of nearly constant fighting between human nations. The council members stared silently. Verex spoke again, more quietly this time. "So they learned from their past." "Yes," the officer said. Another council member asked the question that everyone in the chamber was beginning to wonder. "How many of these weapons are currently active?" The officer looked at the data again. Then he answered, "All of them." The room felt colder. One representative leaned back slowly. "That means their planet is protected by hundreds of active weapon systems." "Yes." "And their solar system contains armed fleets." "Yes." The representative paused. Then asked the most troubling question yet. "Did the humans show any hesitation when sending this information?" The officer shook his head. "No hesitation. In fact, they appeared quite calm." That detail worried the council even more. Most young civilizations tried to hide their weapons. They were afraid of being judged by the Galactic Union. But humans had done the opposite. They had sent everything. Openly. Without fear. Verex finally stood up from his seat. "This situation requires further investigation." Several council members agreed immediately. "If the humans possess this level of military power, we must understand their intentions." Another member added, "And their limits." Verex turned back to the holographic officer. "Continue reviewing the document." The officer nodded. "There is still more information." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. "How much more?" The officer glanced at the remaining pages. Then he answered quietly. 31 pages. The council chamber had never felt this quiet before. The holographic screen floated in the center of the room, showing the next section of humanity's weapon report. The earlier pages had already surprised the council, but what appeared now made several members shift in their seats. Ambassador Daniel Reyes remained calm on the screen. He stood in a quiet room on Earth, his hands resting on the table in front of him. He looked patient, as if he had expected these reactions. Counselor Verex studied the new section carefully. "These are your strategic defense systems?" he asked. "Yes," Reyes replied. The display began showing the first entry. Orbital railgun platforms. The system description appeared in clear text. Dozens of large platforms were stationed around Earth's orbit. Each one carried a powerful electromagnetic cannon capable of firing heavy metal projectiles at incredible speed. One council member looked confused. "Projectile weapons?" he asked. The officer from the inspection fleet answered. "These weapons fire solid metal rods at extremely high velocity. No explosives are required." Another council member slowly understood. "So the impact alone causes the destruction?" "Yes," the officer said. A small simulation appeared on the screen. It showed a metal rod falling toward a target at extreme speed. The impact created an explosion equal to a large bomb. Several council members watched silently. Verex spoke again. "How many of these platforms exist?" The officer checked the report. 36 confirmed. A low murmur moved through the chamber. That was far more than necessary for simple defense. But the report continued. The next system appeared. Planetary Defense Grid. The display showed a network of satellites surrounding Earth. Each one carried advanced laser systems designed to intercept incoming missiles, ships, or asteroids. Counselor Verex looked impressed. "This system appears highly effective." Reyes nodded. "It protects our planet from many threats." Natural threats as well? Yes, Reyes answered. Asteroids, space debris, hostile fleets. The council members exchanged looks. Humanity had clearly thought about every possible danger. The report moved to the next page. Autonomous drone fleets. The screen now showed hundreds of small ships moving in perfect formation. These are unmanned warships, the alien officer explained. They operate using advanced artificial intelligence. One council member leaned closer. They fight without pilots? Yes. Independently? Yes. The council member looked uneasy. Autonomous weapons were heavily restricted in many parts of the galaxy. Yet humans appeared to use them widely. The report continued. Deep Space Defense Fleet. This entry listed several human military fleets stationed far from Earth. Large ships. Carrier platforms. Support vessels. Varex raised an eyebrow. These ships are positioned throughout your solar system. Yes, Reyes said. Why not keep them near your planet? The ambassador gave a simple answer. Because we prefer to stop threats before they reach Earth. The council members understood the logic. Still, the scale of the preparation was unusual. The report continued again. Asteroid redirection systems. The display showed giant engines attached to large space rocks. These systems allow humans to change the path of asteroids, the officer explained. That seems like a useful tool for planetary safety, one council member said. Yes, the officer replied. But the same technology can also turn an asteroid into a weapon. The chamber became quiet again. Everyone understood what that meant. Varex slowly spoke. So humanity has the ability to move massive objects through space. That is correct, Reyes confirmed. Another council member whispered. And drop them on targets. Reyes did not deny it. The display continued to the next section. Now the tone of the report changed. The heading appeared in bold letters. High security systems. Several council members leaned forward. These entries were shorter, but far more serious. One system described a network of hidden satellites capable of disabling enemy technology using powerful electromagnetic pulses. Another system described cyber warfare tools that could shut down enemy communications across entire fleets. The council members watched carefully. These were not simple defensive tools. These were weapons designed to control the battlefield before a fight even began. Varex looked thoughtful. Humans appear to value preparation. Reyes nodded. Very much. The report moved forward again. More entries appeared. Each one more advanced than the last. Orbital weapon stations. Long-range missile arrays. Experimental energy weapons. The council members had already seen more military technology than most civilizations ever developed. But then the display stopped on a new section. The title was different. It was written in bold red letters. Last Resort Systems. The council chamber became completely silent. Even the alien officer from the inspection fleet stopped speaking. Varex slowly read the title again. Last Resort? He looked at the ambassador. Explain this category. Reyes remained calm. These are weapons designed for situations where humanity faces total destruction. Another council member spoke. You mean, extinction? Yes. The council member frowned. Most civilizations never create such weapons. Reyes gave a small nod. Most civilizations did not experience our history. The chamber grew quiet again. Varex gestured toward the screen. Open the section. For a moment nothing happened. Then the display unlocked. But instead of detailed descriptions, the page contained only short summaries. Highly classified systems. Restricted information. Strategic deterrence technologies. One council member looked frustrated. This information is incomplete. Yes, Reyes said calmly. These systems are normally restricted. Varex looked directly at him. Yet you included them in your report. Yes. Why? Reyes answered simply. Because you asked for a full list. The council members exchanged uneasy looks. Even without full details, the existence of these weapons was alarming. One council member spoke quietly. What exactly do these weapons do? The ambassador paused for a moment. Then he gave a careful answer. They ensure that no enemy can destroy humanity without facing the same fate. The meaning was clear. These weapons were not just for defense. They were meant for deterrence. For a long moment, no one in the chamber spoke. The alien officer from the inspection fleet finally broke the silence. Council members, there is one more page. Varex looked up. One more? Yes. The officer slowly opened the final page of the report. The council members leaned forward to read it. But instead of another weapon description, there was only a short note written by the human delegation. Varex read it aloud. This document contains the primary list of humanity's military systems. He paused. Then read the final line. Additional systems may be discussed if the council requires further clarification. The chamber became silent once again, because everyone in the room realized the same thing at the same time. If this was only the primary list, then humanity might have even more weapons they had not yet shown. Inside the Great Council Chamber of the Galactic Union, the atmosphere had completely changed. Only a few hours earlier, the meeting had seemed simple. The council expected to review a short document, approve humanity's membership, and end the session quickly. Now the chamber felt tense. The glowing screen in the center of the room still displayed the human weapons report. Page after page of military systems hovered in the air like a warning. The council members were no longer relaxed. They were thinking, watching, questioning. Counselor Varex slowly walked around the central platform. His tall gray form moved carefully as he studied the report again. Finally he stopped and spoke. This document tells us what humans have built. He looked around the chamber. But it does not explain why. Several members nodded in agreement. The alien officer near Earth was still connected to the chamber through the holographic screen. He listened quietly. Varex turned toward him. Have the humans provided any explanation for the scale of their weapons program? The officer replied calmly. No official explanation yet, Counselor. Varex folded his long hands together. Then we will ask them directly. Within seconds, a communication signal was sent from the Council Nexus to Earth. The response arrived faster than expected. A human representative appeared on the screen. He was an older man with short gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple dark suit instead of a military uniform. This was Ambassador Daniel Reyes, Earth's official diplomat to the Galactic Union. He looked directly at the council members. Greetings, counselors. I understand you have questions about our declaration. The chamber remained quiet for a moment. Then Varex spoke. Yes, Ambassador. We do. He pointed toward the floating document. This list contains an extraordinary number of weapons. That is correct, Reyes said calmly. We would like to understand why. The ambassador did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the council members carefully as if deciding how much to reveal. Then he spoke. To understand our weapons, you must first understand our history. With a small gesture, Reyes activated a data file. The large display changed. The weapons list disappeared. Now the screen showed something very different. Images from Earth's past. The first image showed ancient soldiers fighting with swords and shields. The next showed large wooden ships firing cannons across the ocean. Then came images of early tanks moving across battlefields. Then airplanes dropping bombs. Then massive explosions during the 20th century. The council members watched silently. The images kept changing. More wars. More destruction. More battles across different continents. Reyes spoke quietly while the images continued. For most of our history, humanity did not live as one united species. The council listened. Instead, we lived as many different nations, cultures, and groups. And those groups often fought each other. The screen showed another set of images. Huge armies moving across frozen fields. Cities burning during night air raids. Massive mushroom clouds rising into the sky. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. One representative whispered, "These weapons, they were used against their own planet?" "Yes," Reyes answered. "For centuries." The chamber grew silent again. Varex studied the images carefully. "How many wars has your species fought?" Reyes did not hesitate. "Thousands." The council members exchanged surprised looks. That number was far larger than they expected. Most civilizations in the Galactic Union had experienced a few major conflicts before reaching space technology. Humanity's number was different. Reyes continued speaking. Over time, our technology improved. The screen showed modern fighter aircraft, stealth warships, advanced missile systems. And every time our technology improved, our weapons improved with it. The images moved forward through history. Missile launches, defense satellites, early space stations, robotic military drones. The ambassador folded his hands calmly. For a long time, humanity believed that peace would come if we stopped building weapons. Several council members nodded. That idea was common in many civilizations. But Reyes continued. We learned something important. He paused briefly. Peace does not always last. The chamber felt very quiet now. So humans prepared? Varric said slowly. Yes, Reyes replied. We prepared for threats. Threats from our own world. Threats from space. Threats we could imagine, and threats we could not. One council member raised a hand. But your species achieved global peace several decades ago. Your historical records confirm this. That is correct, Reyes said. Then why continue building weapons? The ambassador smiled slightly. Because peace is easier to keep when you are ready to defend it. The council members considered that answer. It was simple, but powerful. Varric looked again at the report. So every weapon in this document was built as preparation. Yes. For enemies that may never exist. Reyes nodded. Exactly. Another council member leaned forward. But something still concerns us. What is that? You created weapons designed for space warfare long before you confirmed the existence of other civilizations. Reyes nodded again. That is also correct. Why? The ambassador answered with complete honesty. Because we never assumed we were alone. The chamber became silent again. That answer created a strange feeling among the council members. Humans had not waited for danger to appear. They had expected it, prepared for it, planned for it. Varric slowly returned to his seat. He looked thoughtful. Your history explains your caution. Reyes nodded. But the report still contains sections we do not fully understand. The ambassador glanced at the document. Yes. The counselor pointed to the later pages. These systems appear far more destructive than basic defense tools. Reyes remained calm. Those are part of our strategic defense systems. Another council member asked carefully, defense or retaliation? Reyes did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the council members one by one. Then he spoke quietly. Both. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the document moved forward again. New sections of the weapons list appeared. The descriptions were far more serious now. Planetary-scale weapons. Autonomous war fleets. Systems capable of destroying entire battle groups in seconds. Some council members leaned closer to the screen. Others leaned back. But one thing was certain. The deeper they looked into the human weapons list, the more dangerous it appeared. And they had not even reached the final pages yet. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. The final page of the human report still floated in the air. The words were simple, but their meaning was heavy. This document contains the primary list of humanity's military systems. Additional systems may be discussed if the council requires further clarification. Several council members looked at each other. The phrase additional systems worried them. Councillor Varric slowly sat back in his seat. His calm face showed a hint of concern now. He turned to Ambassador Daniel Reyes on the screen. Ambassador, your report is already far larger than any weapon declaration we have ever seen. Reyes nodded politely. I understand. But your final statement suggests there are more systems not included here. That is correct. A quiet murmur spread across the chamber. One council member leaned forward. Why were these systems not listed? Reyes answered calmly. Because they are extremely sensitive. The council member frowned. The union requires full transparency. Reyes did not argue. Yes. That is why we mentioned their existence. The council members exchanged uneasy looks again. This was becoming more complicated than expected. Varric spoke again. Ambassador Reyes, the council must understand the true level of humanity's military capability. I understand that as well, Reyes replied. Then we request clarification. Reyes folded his hands quietly. Clarification about which systems? The additional systems mentioned in your report. The ambassador paused for a moment. His expression remained calm, but it was clear he was thinking carefully. Finally he spoke. These systems fall into a category humans call strategic deterrence. One council member tilted his head. Deterrence. Yes, Reyes said. Weapons designed to prevent war rather than fight it. The council members listened closely. Varric spoke again. Explain. Reyes nodded slightly. Throughout human history, we discovered something important. What was that? Varric asked. The best way to stop a war is to make the cost of war too high. Several council members understood immediately. One whispered quietly, mutual destruction. Reyes did not react to the phrase, but he did not deny it either. Yes, he said calmly. These systems exist to ensure that no enemy believes attacking Earth is safe. The chamber grew quiet again. One council member spoke carefully. You are saying that these weapons are powerful enough to threaten entire fleets? Reyes answered simply. Yes. Another member asked, how many of these systems exist? Reyes gave a careful answer. A limited number. That is not very specific, the council member said. No, Reyes agreed. But it is the most detail we normally provide. Councillor Verex looked thoughtful. Ambassador, the council must evaluate whether humanity poses a danger to other civilizations. Reyes nodded. That is reasonable. Then we require proof that these systems are purely defensive. The ambassador looked slightly amused. Proof? Yes. Verex gestured toward the inspection fleet officer who was still connected to the meeting. Your fleet is already present in the human solar system. Reyes understood immediately. You would like a demonstration. The council members waited for his response. After a moment, the ambassador nodded. That can be arranged. Several council members shifted in surprise. They had not expected humans to agree so easily. Reyes continued. However, the demonstration will take place far from Earth. That is acceptable, Verex said. The ambassador turned slightly and spoke to someone off-screen. Within seconds, the alien officer near Earth received a message. He read it quickly, then looked back at the council. The humans have activated a satellite system near the outer asteroid belt. The chamber lights dimmed as the main display changed. Now it showed a distant part of the human solar system. Thousands of large rocks floated quietly through space. The asteroid belt. A peaceful region far from Earth. Verex watched carefully. What are we observing? The officer answered. A small human satellite has just powered up. The council members looked closer. The satellite was tiny compared to most spacecraft. It looked simple. Almost harmless. One council member asked. That device is the weapon? Yes, the officer said. But it appears to require external power. Suddenly the satellite began to glow faintly. Energy readings on the display started rising quickly. The officer's voice became more serious. Energy output increasing. The council members leaned forward. A thin beam of light suddenly shot from the satellite. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then the beam struck a large asteroid. The result was immediate. The asteroid did not break. It did not crack. It simply disappeared. The explosion was silent in space, but the sensors showed the truth. The rock had been completely vaporized. The council members stared at the display. The beam moved again. Another asteroid vanished. Then another. Within seconds, a large section of the asteroid field was gone. The beam stopped. The small satellite returned to silent mode. The chamber was completely still. One council member finally spoke. That satellite destroyed multiple asteroids instantly. Yes, the officer said quietly. Another council member whispered. If aimed at ships, it could destroy entire fleets. No one disagreed. Councillor Verex slowly turned back to Ambassador Reyes. Ambassador? Yes. Is this one of your strategic deterrence systems? Reyes nodded calmly. Yes. Verex looked at the screen again. The asteroid field now had a large empty space where rocks once floated. He spoke carefully. How many satellites like that exist? Reyes paused. The chamber waited. Finally he answered. Enough. The council chamber remained completely silent after the demonstration. On the large display, the empty space in the asteroid field was still visible. Just minutes earlier, hundreds of massive rocks had floated there. Now there was only darkness. The small human satellite had already powered down. It looked harmless again. But every council member in the room knew the truth now. That tiny machine had destroyed objects the size of mountains in seconds. Councillor Verex slowly sat back in his chair. His long fingers rested on the edge of the table while he stared at the screen. Ambassador Daniel Reyes waited patiently on the holographic display from Earth. No one spoke for nearly half a minute. Finally, one council member broke the silence. That weapon could destroy fleets before they even approach your planet? Reyes nodded calmly. That is correct. Another council member asked carefully, are these satellites hidden throughout your solar system? Yes. How many? Reyes gave the same answer as before. Enough. Some council members looked uncomfortable with that response. But they understood why the humans refused to be more specific. The alien officer from the inspection fleet spoke again. My sensors confirmed that the energy discharge from that satellite was extremely efficient. It used a very small power source compared to the destruction it caused. Another council member frowned. You mean this weapon is also economical? Yes, the officer replied. That is concerning. Verax finally spoke again. Ambassador Reyes, your demonstration was effective. Reyes gave a small polite nod. The purpose was only to answer the council's questions. And it has, Verax said. The council members began quietly discussing among themselves. Some were impressed. Others were clearly worried. Humanity was a young species compared to most members of the Galactic Union. Yet their military preparation was far beyond what anyone expected. One council member whispered to another, "If this is only a defensive satellite, imagine what their main weapons can do." Another replied quietly, "Let us hope we never find out." The conversation slowly returned to the center of the chamber. Verax raised his hand and the room became quiet again. Ambassador Reyes. Yes, Counselor. The Council has one final question. Reyes nodded. Go ahead. Verax looked at the report floating in the air again. The long list of human weapons was still visible. Orbital cannons, drone fleets, defense grids, asteroid control systems, energy weapons, strategic deterrence satellites. Verax spoke slowly. This document contains 47 pages of military systems. That is correct, Reyes said. And we have now seen a demonstration of one additional classified system. Yes. The counselor paused. Then he asked the question that had been quietly forming in everyone's mind. Ambassador, is this truly the complete list of human weapons? The chamber became very still. Several council members leaned forward slightly. Even the alien officer near Earth waited for the answer. For the first time during the entire conversation, Ambassador Reyes did not answer immediately. He looked thoughtful. Then he took a slow breath. Finally he spoke. No. The single word echoed softly in the chamber. Several council members exchanged worried looks. Verax asked carefully. No. Reyes shook his head slightly. This document contains the weapons humanity is willing to officially declare. The room became even quieter. One council member spoke slowly. You mean, there are more? Reyes met his gaze. Yes. Another council member looked surprised. But the Union requires full disclosure. Reyes remained calm. And we have disclosed all major systems. That is not the same as all systems. No, Reyes agreed. Verax leaned forward slightly. Ambassador Reyes, why would humanity hide weapons from the Galactic Union? The ambassador gave a small, thoughtful smile. We are not hiding them. Then what are you doing? Reyes answered quietly. We are being careful. The council members waited for him to explain. He continued. Human history has taught us something very important. What is that? Verax asked. The future is unpredictable. The ambassador folded his hands calmly. Today the Galactic Union is peaceful. Yes, Verax said. But the galaxy is very large. No one argued with that. Reyes continued. And humans have a habit of preparing for problems before they appear. The council members slowly understood what he meant. Humanity had not built weapons only for known enemies. They had prepared for unknown threats. Verax studied the ambassador carefully. Then let me ask the question differently. Reyes nodded. Of course. If a hostile force attacked Earth with a large fleet, could humanity defend itself? Reyes answered without hesitation. Yes. And if that fleet was larger than anything the Galactic Union has ever seen? The ambassador paused for a moment. Then he gave a simple answer. We would try. The honesty of that response surprised several council members. Verax leaned back slowly. It was clear the conversation had reached its limit. Humanity had shown enough power to make their point. The council no longer needed more demonstrations. Because everyone in the chamber had already realized something important. The Galactic Union had asked humans to reveal their weapons. Now they understood something they had not expected. Humans did not fear that question. In fact, they seemed completely comfortable answering it. And that made the council wonder about something far more frightening. If humans were willing to show this much power so easily, what kind of weapons were they still keeping secret? Verax finally spoke again. The council will now deliberate. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the discussion began. But one thought was already clear in every mind in the room. Perhaps asking humans about their weapons had been a mistake.